I'm Trina, and today I'm going to be reviewing a book by one of my all-time favorite authors. I'm going to be reviewing The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis. Y'all know how much I love Mindy McGinnis's books, and this one was no exception. Now, I did get the advanced reader's copy of this, but it was sent to me by one of my friends that just picked this copy up at BookCon earlier this year. Let me tell you what this book is about, and then I'll end the video by giving you 4 reasons I think you should read it. The Female of the Species is a young adult contemporary novel set in a small town in Ohio, and it examines the everyday sexism and rape culture that girls have to face in high school. If you aren't familiar with what the term rape culture means, this is a term that is referring to a culture in which sexual coercion or sexual assault is kind of encouraged through the media that we see, through representation of sex and of women. Actions like catcalling or feeling up a woman who's had too many to drink are just kind of seen as okay and they go unchecked. It's a culture in which, by and large, the victims of rape and sexual assault are the ones that are blamed for this happening to them. Like, how often have you heard, well, that girl was drinking and wearing a really short skirt, so she must have been asking for it. It's also the idea that boys will be boys and that men are not responsible for their actions because they don't have free will and can't possibly control themselves, so it's the woman's responsibility or the victim's responsibility to ward off being raped. Rape is kind of just assumed to be something that will happen if you dress the wrong way or act the wrong way. Now back to this book, and the way in which it takes on rape culture is by telling this story by 3 points of views. 2 of these points of views are girls, and the third is a boy named Jack, and I want to start with Jack's point of view because Jack was the hardest character for me to read. At the start of this book, Jack very much views girls as conquest. He's a jock, and him and his buddies often partake in the locker room talk where they talk about the girls that they've hooked up with. So Jack, starting out, is our example of the male gaze. He is definitely a great example of how boys are kind of brought up and expecting what kind of behavior they should have. Like, if you're not always hitting on the girls, you're not a macho man. Reading through Jack's point of view at first was very difficult for me because I thought, what is going on here? I thought this book was going to be going against all of these things that I'm seeing in his point of view. If you feel that way, stick with it, because Jack, after he meets the other 2 characters who also narrate this book, his mindset starts to change. Jack is not a villain of this story, but he does have a big purpose in showing us the male's side to the sexism that occurs. The second character that I want to talk about is PK. PK is the daughter of the small town's preacher, and she just wants nothing more than to rebel and get out from under her father's grasp. She wants to go to parties. She is a bit too trusting when it comes to, like, taking a drink from a stranger. You know, she doesn't think anything bad is going to happen to her. PK is also an example of how women can be sexist towards each other. Prior to the start of this novel, PK's longtime boyfriend was stolen by a girl in her school named Branley. Throughout this novel, PK very often does slut shame Branley. She really harshly judges her. Again, by the end of the book, her point of view has drastically changed. So she's kind of our point of view that shows how even girls can play into sexism and into overall rape culture based on what we think and say and how we treat other females. And the third point of view is my favorite one. It is Alex, and Alex is the character that you've probably heard about the most if you've seen any kind of marketing or synopsis for this book. Alex is our vengeance character. Before the book started, her younger sister was abducted, raped, and murdered, and the man who did this was put on trial and then set free. They didn't have enough evidence to convict him. And because the law wouldn't punish him, she decides to take things into her own hands and extract her own brand of vigilante justice. So Alex, at the start of this book, you know that Alex is a killer. She kills for revenge. She hates how sexual predators largely go unpunished. She feels so much heartbreak for what other girls and women have gone through that she just can't stand to sit back and watch it happen. Alex is definitely a morally gray character, or the anti-hero. If you like reading about characters like that, this is your girl. It's not that this story is justifying murder, but it's a great examination of, like, what happens when our vindictive thoughts turn into actions. Alex is the character that is basically like wish fulfillment of what a lot of women wish that they could do or wish that they could fight back. The most beautiful thing about this story is how these 3 characters start to learn and grow from meeting each other. As I said, talking about Jack and PK, initially a lot of their points of views about other girls in the story can come across as being very problematic. However, the characters doing these problematic things don't mean that the book itself is problematic. It's bringing up these negative things in order to make a point about them. A couple of other things I want to point out about this book is that we do get a lot of observations about what the difference is between human versus animal nature. In this book, we are seeing how women can be predators, but also how a lot of times society casts them as prey. And I also want to point out that there is a lesbian side character in this book. If I'm remembering correctly, she is the only diverse character that's included in this book, but this is set in a very, very small town, and that character makes some statements about what it's like growing up gay in a small town. However, her role is so small that I hesitate to call this good or bad representation. Two of the characters work in an animal clinic. Because they're working in a clinic with injured animals, if depictions of animal injury are something that highly upsets you, this is going to have some unsettling scenes. If you've liked any other Mindy McGinnis books and the topics that she writes about, her writing style, her characters, this is definitely one not to miss. I felt it was incredibly well written and it tackled a very, very important topic. I want to end this video by recapping 4 points that this book covers that I think would be reasons why you might want to pick this one up. Reason number 1 why I think you might like this one is if you're looking for a book that takes on sexism and rape culture. Reason number 2 I think you might like it is if you enjoy reading from morally gray characters. Reason number 3 is if you enjoy stories that are told from multiple points of view that weave together really well. And reason 4 why I think you might like this one is if you're looking for a book that focuses much more on friendships than on romance. There is a small romance here, but overall it's the friendships, and especially the female friendships, that really shine in this story. That's my review for The Female of the Species. In my opinion, it was another hit by Mindy McGinnis. I loved seeing her take on a contemporary issue, something that is so important. Let me know if y'all are looking forward to reading this one, or if you've already read it, tell me what you thought about it down below. I would love to discuss it further with you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the comments. Bye!